Welcome to Humankind 3, a game of civilizations conquering kings, taxes, markets, ownership, all on a world stage where you write history, pick your own class, and pick your own character. So there's a lot to unpack. I'm not only going to tell you about the fundamentals, but I'm going to give you a deeper dive into the strategy of the game and being a good member of your civilization. But throughout, my best advice is to just play the game. Let's get into it. There are numerous things to take note of in the main menu. The ways of spawning, customizing character, tech tree, game pass shop, and the server timeline. The tech tree uses a currency known as life points to expand your skill set for each profession. These specialized skills, as well as life points, stay even when you die or leave the server. I personally recommend getting horse domestication, gardening, livestock, faster repair, tailoring, surgery, and maybe writing. The rest of them seem rarely used. The timeline consists of births and deaths of civilizations, the peak and statistics of the civilization, the death of the very elderly, major world disasters, and the conquering of territory, where every minute of real time is 1 year in game time.
There are a few things you want to take into consideration when spawning, especially when it comes to age. Spawning within a civilization means you will spawn as age 0, whereas if you spawn in a random location as a nomad, you will spawn at age 14. To ride horses, you must be age 13, and to be crowned king, you must be age 15. At the age of 70, your healthy meter will begin to decrease gradually. This can be mitigated with medicinal herbs and doctors. Building, buying, or upgrading your home will allow you to have more children. Dying or leaving a server means your currency is set to 0. Currency only lasts one lifetime. Every time you level up, you will be given one job token, which can be spent to change your class. The limit for job tokens is 30, and they always keep with you, whether you leave the server or you die. Before we talk about classes, I will be ranking them in terms of how important I think they are to a civilization. I will then list off their specialties and why they are important. At number 1 we have the farmer. It requires no job points to become, and it grows crops like food, wheat for building supplies, and heals. It also hosts livestock which make leather, milk, and meat. One good farmer can hold a civilization on their shoulders. At number 2 we have the artisan. They cost 5 job tokens, and they are responsible for crafting the vast majority of items needed to upgrade buildings. At number 3 we have the blacksmith, costing 5 job tokens. Their responsibility is to craft tools to make better yields. Blacksmiths make everyone more efficient. At number 4 we have the engineer. The engineer's responsibility is to make horse stables, which cost 10 wheat to spawn a horse, roads, which make walking more efficient, and repair buildings after a flood. They cost 7 job tokens. At number 5, costing 6 job tokens, we have the extractor. Extractors do double the damage to resources and have an extra yield for every 10 levels they have. It is very easy to make a ton of money with extractor if you sell your resources for cheap. If you pair an extractor with a horse, a good pickaxe, and a good axe, they are unstoppable. At number 6 we have the doctor, costing 12 job tokens. Doctors entirely focus around health, creating medicinal herbs and also healing people within their hospitals. This can greatly help with raw food poisoning, the elderly, and can completely cure a village that is struck with the plague. Plagues have a tendency of wiping out villages and servers if they do not have a doctor. Doctors during the plague become the most important members of the civilization. At number 7 we have the scholar, costing 10 job tokens. Scholars quickly level up players if they have a sufficiently upgraded school, giving players a better opportunity to pick whatever class they want. Scholars make most, if not all, of their money passively. This means you could be AFK as a scholar and make money. At number 8 we have the chef, costing 7 job tokens. The only reason I see a need for a chef is to avoid raw food poisoning and to get a better bang for your buck when it comes to crops. Otherwise, oftentimes, chef's food is not much better for how much more expensive it is. At number 9, costing 20 job tokens, we have the priest. Now, I think I'm being a little hard on this ranking, but in terms of actual productability to society, it doesn't do much, but for long-term benefits, it does quite a lot. Whenever a priest preaches in a temple, other players can show up and gain good karma, which over time will give them more life points. Priests can also bury dead players in a graveyard for extra life points. While not necessarily being useful, they're quite essential for the long game. At number 10, costing 10 job tokens, is the defender. The only advantage I think defender has is if it's tied with a scholar, and they could easily make a lot of gold. Even then, it highly depends on the level of the school. Throwing players in jail just wastes their opportunities.
and the game provides enough incentive for players not to have a negative karma. Otherwise, basically everyone else in a civilization can do the defender's job. At number 11, we have the merchant costing 20 job tokens. Basically, the only useful thing that a merchant can do is build docks for boats. The merchants can also trade in other civilizations' markets, but if your civilization is in a proper place, you will never need a merchant. I think the title of dropshipper would fit the merchant better. And in last place, costing 30 job tokens, is the noble. The only noble that should exist is the ruler of the civilization. Otherwise, there are very good odds that the rest of your nobles in your civilization are just sitting around AFK making passive money. I'd say personally, if you have 3 or more nobles in your civilization, start taking them out. They're more useful as a headstone and a life point in a priest's pocket. They are borderline useless. Now, if you think any of my rankings are unfair, put it down in the comments and put up some defense. It would also help newer players out to know what is good. Civilizations. On the main grounds of a civilization, there are 3 key components: a market to claim booths and to sell items, a podium to join the civilization, and a throne for a noble to be crowned ruler. And if there's one thing that's super important about civilizations, it's their location. The natural resources you want to be looking for are rock, wood, clay, copper, tin, sand, iron, and coal. There are a few places on the map that have access to all of these resources within a pretty close proximity. I rank these based on personal preference, but I feel like the locations are pretty universal. My personal number 1 is the Beijing, China area. China has a large sum of basically all resources besides iron, which you can find on Taiwan. This means within China's area you could probably make a road network to all vital resources. My personal number 2 is the Spanish region. Germany is very close by, but I think the only reason the Spanish area is more advantageous is because of the colossal iron and copper reserves down in Africa. With such a dense concentration of natural resources, you can rapidly advance in Spain. My personal number 3, and what I consider to be the last of the reasonable spots to put a civilization, is Texas. There's an okay amount of trees and rocks, and otherwise the iron is pretty hard to get to, but Texas will have just about everything within a decent reach. Honorable mention to Indonesia, but its terrain is just too difficult to work with. And that's about it for surface level strategy I have about the game. The rest of the game heavily leans into the rest of the specialized classes. I wouldn't have enough time, nor would I have the knowledge enough to tell you the best way to play each class. If there are 2 pieces of advice I'm going to give you, it's don't price gouge if you're a farmer, and take out your local noble. What's next?